fully Wright. I'm 32. I put up telephone mats for a living, so if you haven't got any signal in your area, it's my fault. I'm nothing special. If anything, I would call myself a failure. But Jesus come for the failures, and thank God he did. I was born in a very, very privileged position that my mum and dad were saved. I've always known of God. I've always went to church, I've always went to Sunday school, and I've always been brought up in a godly home where God was always put first. And I have to say, I didn't appreciate it at the time. I went to church, I went to Sunday school, I was dragged to church, I was dragged to Sunday school, and that was my life, right up until about the age of 14. We went to a church in Templepatrick called the Haven Christian Centre, if any of you know it. And the Haven used to do a sharing time every Sunday morning. And the sharing time people would talk about what they'd been challenged on in the week or what they were reading and different things that got there. But whenever I got to the age of 14, Mum and Dad trailed me to church that much, kicking and screaming. I said to them, the second he opens the floor for sharing time this morning, I'm standing them up and I'm going to tell him that I think God is fake, I hate Christians, and I do not want to be here. And Mum and Dad says, you're going? And I says, well, be prepared, because I'm going to stand up and I'm going to tell them that they're all mad and God isn't real. And I just, from that day, I had a bitterness towards Christians. If you had invited me to a Christian service, I would have told you where to go. And actually, I tell you even better, Bobby Young, that goes down to White. I was doing a plaster in the wall one day for money, and he walked past and he says to me, he says, what about you, kid? What about you? It was a person from White. I said, what about you, kid? He says, fancy going to church on Sunday night? And I said, see, you keep walking. And all these years later, I'm down there at White now. God has a good for having it. But from about 14 to about the age, I can see it at 19, from 14 to 19, I've done all the things in the world, all the things people shouldn't be doing. I was not very well behaved in school. I didn't do very well in my grades. All my life was working hard and drinking hard and partying hard. That's all I wanted to do. I probably started going to nightclubs in around 15, 16, smoking, drinking, drugs, all that sort of stuff. Just as much as I could do and as often as I could do it. That's what I wanted to do. I worked to pay for my habits and what I wanted to do. But in the background of me just living a reckless life, I had a loving mum. And my mum and her friends every Friday morning met and they prayed for me. Every single Friday morning they prayed for me for years. I don't know how long, but for years they prayed for me. And that was just the way my life was. But at the same time, I was growing more and more distant from my mother and my father. Because of their love for Jesus, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand God, I couldn't stand Christianity, I couldn't stand my two brothers, I couldn't stand my sister. And the reason I couldn't stand them is because I thought they were being fake. You know, my brothers and sisters weren't saved, but they were still going along with the church and all that there. They didn't have the guts to stand up and say, we don't want to do that. And I built a bridge between us and a distance, a real distance. Me and my father couldn't live in the same house. I ended up moving into a shed at the back, a garage out the back that was converted into like a granny flat type of thing. You find it funny. I didn't laugh at you whenever you were singing. But I moved into the granny flat anyway, and a big part of the reason why was because I was coming in 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and waking people up and stumbling and whatever. And I moved out there anyway, but me and my dad had grown so far apart, we couldn't be in the same house together. I couldn't even go to the birthday parties or anything. It was just everything just had to be an argument. We just couldn't stand each other. I couldn't stand my brothers. I couldn't, me and my brothers were playing rugby together and fighting, like actually physically fighting on the rugby pitch. Just this real distance from them. And I had a lot of rugby friends, and as I say, I was drinking and all that there. I come home one Sunday morning, one was away at church, and the brothers were at a thing called Summer Madness up in King's Hall. And I had the worst hangover I ever had. I don't actually think I ever had a hangover before, but this Sunday I had a hangover. And Mum came home from church and she seen me lying on the sofa. And she says, we're going up to Summer Madness. She says, all your old friends will be here. She says, would you come up with us? And I says, no, I'm not going. And she says to me, she said, Billy, just come up, I need a hand in. Your dad's going to park the car and we're going to take you carry a pot of curry and I carry a pot of rice, and she's going to feed all the youth from the church. I said, no, Mum, I'm not going. She says, Billy, there's a lot of girls there. I said, right, I'll carry the curry. So I get up into Summer Madness anyway, and it's a bit of a story, the whole thing, but some of my old friends there, boys, like one of them I seen the day was running the marathon, like, and he was there, and actually I'll tell you a funny story, because you like joy anyways. He was standing talking to a group of girls, and I come over behind him. I haven't heard from him probably 4 or 5 years at this point, and I come over behind him, and he's standing talking to the girls, and I come over, and I pulled down, but I pulled everything down by accident. But anyway, long story short, that night, Mum and Dad, I was talking to everybody, and Mum and Dad left. They left me there, so I rang a friend and I says, I need a lift. He says he was at a party, and he got a birthday party, a cousin's birthday party or something, and he couldn't come and get me until like 8 o'clock. And I said, no, I need out here now. He says, I'll pick you up at 8 o'clock. So I was chatting away to everybody, and they said, sure, come on into the meeting, that'll be over by 8 o'clock. And I went into that meeting, and I was standing with pure utter bitterness in my heart. And I walked in, and I started looking around the place. For the first time in years, my eyes opened. Because the amount of nightclubs and the amount of people and the places I had been. And at that point I realised it was just a place of emptiness that I had been. There was no happiness, there was no joy. And that day I looked around that place and I seen young people with no alcohol, no drugs, no nothing, no intention of anything else other than singing their hearts out. And I think it was Happy Day they were playing. I can't even remember what the song was. I think it was Happy Day. And I looked around for the first time in years. I hadn't seen joy like I had never seen before. So I think it's brilliant that you said that there should be joy in the church, because sometimes whenever I walk in the church and I see people, you just love to shake your guts. What on earth's going on here? Like we have good news to tell, like, and sometimes we don't show it in our faces. Especially me, I'll today, like, I'm drunk. But that night, anyway, I said to the guy that on the trousers on, I said to him, I said, I need to talk to you. Because I don't remember what was said. I don't remember anything other than seeing joy that I had never seen before. And everything that I had learnt from very, very young age was it say, train up a child in the way that he should go, and she'll never depart from him. Well, everything I learnt whenever I was a child started flowing back to me. And I said, I need to speak to you. Me and him went out, and then I was smelly, fusty tent, and we sat down, and I cried my eyes out. And I said to him, I just need Jesus, I just need to get saved. And that night, I gave my heart to God. And I can remember saying to the guys that I wanted to stay on, and I wanted to finish to the Tuesday. That was the Sunday, and I wanted to stay on to the Tuesday, because I know if I had walked out there that night, I would have been away with my friend, I would have probably been to the pub or wherever he was going to take me. And I said, I need to stay here. And I remember ringing my mum, and my mum was still at the church in the room, and I told her, and you should have had it on the loudspeaker, then you was home. And you should have heard the cheer from that church that I had been saved. And Mum and Dad brought me up stuff, they brought me up clothes and stuff to stay over. And they always joked about me being the prodigal. And the prodigal was my favourite story in the Bible. And the reason it's my favourite story is because that night, whenever I seen my dad, Ethan, that night my dad came over and he just opened his arms up and he gave me a hug. And that was the first time I felt love. And I didn't know how to use. God was so, so good. Sorry, I missed a big part. Missed a big part. He should have told me. About 3 months before that, we had pups. We had wee dogs. And we were playing a bit of rugby. Me and the brother were just, and it was a strange one, like, because Mum was standing in the window crying her eyes out because she thought me and the brothers were getting on. It turned out into a fight anyway, but we were kicking a rugby ball back and forward, and my brother Stephen, he kicked it out onto the road, and the wee pups ran out onto the road and got killed. And everybody was crying and all. I was acting a hard man. I was like, only dogs, only dogs, only dogs. But my friend come to pick me up that night, came up and said, I need to get out of this house. Everyone's girling, they're doing my head in. And I was heading out to get drunk. And my mum was crying her eyes out at the bottom of the stairs as I walked down. She was praying for me. And I walked down the stairs and she grabbed me and she said, Billy, I says, Mum, don't be stupid, bring me stupid dogs. Don't worry about it. Now I was broken inside over the dogs. I said, they're stupid dogs, don't worry about it. And she says, I know they're dogs, Billy. She said, but if that had been you, where would you be? She said, would you be in heaven or would you be in hell? And that thought stuck with me right up until that day of summer madness. So I had to add that in. But that stuck with me. That stuck with me and I couldn't get that thought in my head. The amount of alcohol I started drinking then just to try and hold that thought up. I couldn't do it. Didn't matter where I went or what I tried to consume my life with. I couldn't get that thought in my head. If I was to die today, where would I be, heaven or hell? And I knew the answer was hell. So that was the build up to me going to summer madness. Was I had that thought in my head. But anyway, so that's how I get saved anyway. But life has been so simple since I got saved. There's never been any trials or tribulations. Like life, whenever you become Christians, just really easy. And if you believe that. No, I had real struggles. I struggled with the church I went to because everybody was so much younger than me or so much older, so I had actually no fellowship myself. I really struggled. I prayed, I asked God where to go. I was really struggling. Me and my brother just drove around Belfast, we drove around Vernon, we drove around everywhere just looking for a church. We spent about 3 weekends just driving around looking for youth, looking for a church, somewhere to go. And someone said, this is impossible, why not try Bible? And I said, no, not down there. We never thought, we heard about the youth on Saturday night and came down and walked through the door. And the first time we walked through the door, there's a guy, Pete Coleman, he came over and he greeted me. And he chatted to me and we met Pastor Mark. God love Pastor Mark. His wee wife was buried yesterday there, 43 years old. She was buried yesterday there. Pastor Mark has been a huge influence in our lives, like a huge influence in my life. Pastor Mark was there, and just the greeting we walked through the door. I know people always say, "Oh, quite well, I never said no, but the greeting I got that night was from God. It wasn't from anybody there. God brought me into that place, and God greeted me at the door, and God told me that was my home, and I've been there ever since. But what I can say, looking back over the years, is how good and how faithful God has been to me in so many different situations. And I had to learn an awful lot. I'm a stubborn boy, and I had to learn an awful lot. And what I have learned is that if you give something to God, God will turn it out for His good. It doesn't matter what it is, God will turn it over for His good. Like, I was working for myself whenever me and Kelly get married, and the harder I worked, the less money I had. And I just thought, I'll work harder, I'll try this, I'll try that, I'll try different things. And the harder I worked, the less money I had. And I can remember me and Kelly sitting down, and Kelly's going through the finances and working it all out, and I'm like, just whatever's in the account, send the account. Me and Kelly sat down one night and we read it all down, and she says, we just can't do this. And I says, well, we need to pray what God wants us to do, because I don't want to go and work for someone. And we sat down and we prayed, and I felt so weak, because I like to sort things out on my own. I like to fix things myself. And we sat down and we said, Jesus, we can't do this ourselves. Like, Kelly was carrying us for the first few years of marriage. I didn't matter what I touched with money, it was just a disaster. And we we sat down and we said to God, God, we're handing the finances all over to you. I went upstairs, I had a text message from the guy saying, I've given your cousin your number and he's going to contact you about a job. Now, I hadn't told anybody I was looking at a job, I hadn't mentioned it to anybody. He just says, if you're looking for someone to do X, Y, and Z, and you're the perfect guy for him. He rung me up, I told him I didn't want the job. He then rung me up and said, sure, come and have a chat with me. I went and had a chat with him, I declined the job. He then rung me up and offered me more money and I took the job. How stupid, looking back on it, how stupid do you need to be? You're down the stairs, you're praying, and someone texts you saying about a job, and someone texts you saying, here's a job. It was more money I could ever make on my own, self-employed, and there's me turning it down. You can't turn God away. If God gives you something, you have to take it, you have to go with it, no matter what it is. I'm still in that job. I would say now, if I could write my dream job down on a bit of paper, I'm in it right now, and that's from God. That's God. That's from me handing my finances that I was trying to sort out over to God. He's given me this job, and He has been faithful in everything He has done. People, whenever they give their testimony, they like to lead with a verse. I want to lead with a chorus of a song, and it's goodness of God. And it's all my life you have been faithful. All my life you've been so, so good. With every breath I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. There's me singing this song about 100 times, I forget it. But God has been so, so faithful. And God has been so, so good to me. And I stand up here and probably talk pure and utter rubbish the whole time. But I want to just let you know that God has been so, so faithful to me. God has been faithful to my family. And God, I can't even describe with words what God has done for me, what He's lifted me from, what He's taken me. I can't. Words can't describe it. But there's one other song I want to just say, and I'm not even sure the words of it, but it's I will look up, for there's none above you. I will. The line I'm on is, I will look back and see that you're faithful. I look ahead, believing you're able. It's easy to look back and say that God's faithful, but I'm looking ahead, believing that God's able. God's able to meet our needs in our circumstances at the minute. God's able to meet it. And I just want to tell you all that I love God. And God has been so good. And I'm going to sit down and I can talk about it.
I'm an emotional wreck already, so hopefully I can get through this. But I'm Kelly, and it's lovely to be with you tonight. Thank you so much for the invitation to share our testimonies. God, like Billy has said, has been so good to us and so faithful in the good times and in the not so good times. It's so good to be saved tonight, and you don't need to look too far to see that the world's a mess. And we should be shouting it from the rooftops that Jesus is the answer, that hope has a name, and His name is Jesus. So I'm from Lisburn, before I moved to Vernon. I was blessed with a great upbringing, a mum, a dad, a brother and a sister who loved me, cared for me, worked hard to provide for me, and my parents aren't Christians, and they weren't Christians, but my grandparents were. So we had godly influence in our family from a young age, and we were taught to say our prayers every night. We were sent to all of the usual organisations, Sunday School, Girls' Brigade, you name it, we were there. We had Bible clubs in our street as well, where we learned memory verses. So from a young age, I believed in God, and I thought most people did. When you're young, you think that way, and I thought that being a good person would get me into heaven. And I always remember from a young age thinking about death, and I couldn't wrap my head around it, that how death could possibly be the end. There had to be so much more to life. But I also remember thinking that Christianity was a set of rules. You can do this and you can't do that. And I used to wonder how people could stick to it and be so committed to it. I started secondary school, and thankfully God brought friends into my life who had similar interests to me. Friends who I would go along to Christian youth events with, like Summer Madness, like Billy has said. And where we used to hang out, one of the local churches, I think it was Lisburn, Elam, used like an outreach caravan where young people could go who were hanging out the streets. And I remember speaking to a guy, and I must have been saying to him about, oh, I'm a good person, I'll get into heaven. And for the first time from what I can remember, he told me that being a good person would not get me into heaven, because none of us are good enough. And it's only by believing in the Lord Jesus Christ and being born again that we will see the kingdom of God. And that always stayed with me. My friends and I started going to a Christian event for young people in Ulster Hall called Manifest, which you may be familiar with, and your audience is familiar with. On Saturday night, it was once a month, and we just loved it. There was life, there was joy, and Christianity didn't look like the boring set of rules that I thought it was. And one of those nights in the Ulster Hall in Belfast, I went up to the front to get prayed and to commit my life to Jesus. And it's so important, as we've said tonight, for us as Christians to show and to live in the joy of the Lord in our churches, in our workplaces, in our homes, because the unsaved notice, I noticed it, Billy noticed it, and now more than ever we need to shout that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And that was 20 years ago, and God has been so faithful and so good to me. Through everything in my life, He has been my rock, my comfort, my help, my peace, my hope. And what He has given me through taking my place on the cross is life abundant here on earth and life eternal to look forward to. And He has blessed me in so many ways beyond measure. I couldn't begin to list them. He's blessed us in an amazing church that I started going to with my grand and granddad from a young age, just down the road. And they used to drive. I lived in Lisburn, they lived kind of Dunmurray, Seymour Hill direction, and they used to drive like 10 minutes in the opposite direction to pick my friends and I up, and they waited patiently, they were happy to bring us to church, and I really thank God for them and others who went out of their way to make sure that I had a way to church before I could drive myself. So I just didn't want to miss any meetings. I love worshiping God and having fellowship with other Christians. My granny Granda also encouraged us to go to the well, which was on Saturday night, quite well for the young people, and they all came together to go deeper with God and to have fun and fellowship. I remember the first night that I walked in as a young 13-ish-year-old many years ago, and we walked in, we were overwhelmed by the whole thing, and phoned my grandma to come and pick us up. It was just too much. But thankfully we went back, and 20 odd years later I'm still there, and still think I'm a young thing, but not so much. But it's so important to have that fellowship, to get involved, and we were always encouraged to have a ministry. We were also taught if you get to every meeting, you won't have time to backslide, which was so true. We were there on Monday nights for the prayer meetings, Wednesday night Bible study, Friday night choir practice, Saturday night youth, Sunday all day church and Sunday school, and we really didn't have time to backslide, plus all the social events as well. So I encourage you, if you're not already, get involved in whatever church you belong to step out of your comfort zone and do something for the kingdom of God. The well is where I met Billy. We went on quite a few mission trips together, one of which was Macedonia nearly 11 years ago, and the rest is history, as they say. But God has been so good to us and so faithful. Like Billy said, it doesn't come without its struggles. And something we have started to talk about more openly is that we are in a season of waiting, a season of the unknown and trusting in God's timing. And it's a subject that people shy away from and feel uncomfortable talking about, but here I am. But many people are in similar situations, whatever that may look like, and we just want to testify that even when things don't go our way, God is still good, that God still has a plan and we are not forsaken. We've been married for over 7 years, coming 8 years in December. I deserve a medal, as you can probably see. And for around 5 of those years, we have been trying for a family. And we know that there are people who go through so much in life, and the journey we have been on for the past 5 years is nothing in comparison to the sorrows and struggles that many go through. But we just want to testify tonight that even in the midst of our struggles, God is still good, that His kindness overwhelms us, and He has been so faithful to us. And maybe you're here tonight and you're going through something similar, or a season of waiting for something else, a job, a partner, a loved one to get saved, a breakthrough, whatever that may look like. Be encouraged that the Lord sees you, that He has a plan, He's in control, and you're not alone. We have had many appointments 5 years, many disappointments, many tears, many cries to the Lord. But through it all, He has surrounded us with His peace that passes all understanding as we trust in His sovereign will. We've also had many opportunities to testify to doctors and nurses, to friends and family that we wouldn't have had otherwise. That above all that we long for nothing more than to honour God and to put Him first. And we are now at a place where we know in our hearts that we are blessed beyond measure with what we have. And if we never get anything else in this life, God is still good. And He's allowed us to go through this season of waiting to change us, to draw us closer to Him, and to strengthen us and use us in whatever way He wills, not us. But if we can encourage you with a few things tonight that we have learned that's helped us in our season of waiting, is firstly to fix your eyes on Jesus, to fix your eyes on heavenly things, to set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. And when we do that, He keeps us in perfect peace. And this life is so short, and only what's done for Christ will last. And it doesn't matter what we have here on earth, what matters is what we do for eternity. We have also learned to count our blessings. God has given us so much, and we often remind each other just how good God has been to us. Salvation, of course, He saved us from death to life, from darkness to light. We've received His forgiveness, His kindness, His hope, His peace, and His purpose. How can we not praise Him and thank Him for everything He has done when our cups are truly running over? We believe God can and will bless us with a family in His time. And the promise we are holding on to is Isaiah 43 and verse 19. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. But until then, we will do our best to keep praising, to keep thanking, and to keep serving, because we couldn't go through this time if we didn't have our faith and our hope in Jesus, and He is just lovely. I just want to read something before we hand back over, if that's okay. It's by Dawn Wilkerson. She posted this on her Instagram a while back. I read it the last few times I give my testimony, so apologies if anyone's already heard it, but it really encouraged me, and I hope it encourages you too. It's called The Waiting Room. If you feel like you're the only one waiting, you probably have your eyes closed and your ears covered. As you sit through this season of trusting God, there are people all around you in the same season. And as you look around, relationships are the gold you will find. Some are waiting for purpose and direction. Others await relational healing, emotional restoration, or the salvation of a loved one. Could our wait be more than just about ourselves? Could our delay serve the purpose of awakening us to the countless who surround us in need? Our communities and churches are full of people in waiting. If we open up our eyes to people around us and build relationship as we wait, then we can celebrate their wins as if they are our own. Before I ever got to celebrate the birth of my son, I celebrated countless friends as their families grew. And when God gave us a child, they were there to celebrate with us. She continues to talk about the opportunity in the waiting. Could the wait make the walk even richer? The wait gave me time to empathise with others, reflect, pray, connect, and enlarge our circle of support. It allowed me to realise my story is only a tiny part of the life story God is telling through history, and all of our stories are connected. 8 years of waiting offered me countless opportunities. Opportunities to isolate or communicate, opportunities to doubt or to trust, opportunities to run away or to rest in the finished work of Jesus. I wouldn't take one day of the journey back. It took me a long time, but I finally came to a place where I realised that if I never received this specific miracle, that there is a constant supply of peace and joy just for me right here in the waiting room. That God was birthing something powerful within my soul that I would carry for the rest of my journey. Psalm 102 verse 7, He is not afraid of bad news. His heart is firm, trusting in the Lord. And that is the true miracle of it all, that Jesus is enough. And that's my testimony. God is good, God is faithful, and God is our hope. And I've just written down here one of the songs that Billy said too. All our lives He has been faithful. All our lives He has been so, so good. And with every breath that we are faithful. We will sing of the goodness of God.